forgot me, but okay. So now if you see here, now this is what the first test case. The test case, first test case, I'll be passing means the complete the values. Open the browser, navigate to this URL. You enter this username, enter this particular password, click on this particular button, and navigate to the home page, and then click on the inbox and doing this one. So now these are the aspects which I need to do it from this particular test case. Anyone is joining? So now when it comes to here, now here I have hard coded my values, username and the password and all the things. Now what it will happen is when I wanted to write for the second test case, now what is this particular test case is doing for the outbox or anything. So now what I'll try to do is I'll write my linear code, means I'll not have it as a breakups, means like a module. I'll not write, means I'll not break that particular code as a module wise testing. So now you open a particular, for an example, in the olden days, when the automation or the manual testing we have been started, now we are breaking this particular application and then we are testing, okay, login page we will be separate testing it, and the home page we are testing separately, inbox we are testing separately, the outbox testing separately. But that previously it was not in that particular fashion. So what they will do is once they log in and then they will try to play with the inbox, they will play with the outbox, they will play with the trash, they will play with the spam. So like this, they will be trying to play with all these particular application. So now how they have been tested, the same way it will be converted into this particular scripting. So now what they will try to do is one particular script, it will have some 1,000, 10,000 lines of code. So now what they have been written is they will not write it in the test case pattern. So just they will be writing it in a every line of statement with the hard coded values and the same repetition of the code. Means for an example, they done the logout. So then once again they do the login, and then they will write for the outbox, and then they log out, and then once again they will log in, and then they will do the logout. Means if you see here, what are the disadvantages of this particular thing? If you do it in this particular way, if you do it in this particular linear fashion of automation, so what are the disadvantages you'll be seeing over here?
If there's a problem with one module, then the next module can't be executed.
Excellent, excellent. So one module means if there is particular thing failure here, the remaining modules will not have, means the remaining module will not execute over here. Means it will take a lot of time. Means if one thing is failure, the complete other steps will not execute. So there is no proper exception handlings were there. So this is what the one of the basic disadvantage of this one. And others are saying some other answer. Reusability, code redundancy. So now if you see here, I have done the login here. Once again, I will be doing the login here, log out here. I'll be writing the same step. Means there is no reusability. So we have been written all those things. So there is no reusability and a lot of time taking process in the maintenance of the code. And the more important is we are hard coding. That's where I have been stressed out for 3-4 times. The test data means the test data, whatever the things we have been written is hard coded. If you go and then if you wanted to change every time, you need to come into the script and then you need to change this one. So there is lot of hard coded happen in this particular fashion. So now this was means the maintenance of automation itself is becoming a big challenge for us. So automation should reduce the time. It shouldn't be a burden for us. So that's the reason we stopped doing this particular linear frameworks. Now the next one comes into the market, which is a modular framework. Now the name itself we are able to understand. So now what it will try to do is it will divide it into the different modules. Means for an example, all my login functionality and all my login functionality test cases I'll be writing for this one, and all my inbox functionality test cases I'll be writing here, and all the login functionality positive test cases I can write it, and all the login functionality negative test cases I can write it, and all the login functionality edge cases. The same way for the inbox, same way for the outbox. Means it started to segregate into the different modules they have been started to segregate it. So now what it will happen, so I can test, means the first thing what we have been done is previously, if one particular thing is blocker, we will not test other things. But here what it happened is based upon this particular linear fashion. So now we learned the lesson. Okay, so the first thing is passed, second thing is passed, third thing will not fail. So now I can test this one separately. So I will test this separately. So there is no interlinking of this one. So now they have been divided the things into a different modules, and then they wanted to test this one. So this is what the first step which they have been taken it. So segregate into the different modules and then test this one. So now segregation is done, and the next one what they wanted to do is they wanted to make the reusability. Means this is the first step they have been done. Second thing they have been done for the reusability level. So now what they wanted to do is, hey, we are doing something wrong, boss. Like every time we are doing a login functionality and then a logout functionality. Can't we write a small function for the login? In the login method, what we will try to do, enter username, enter password, and click this one. And logout password, just go there and click on this logout button, so that I can create this particular module, this particular methods, and then I can call wherever it is required for me. So that's how they have been created this particular modules. And then with the help of this particular modules, they have been recalled these particular functions wherever it was required. But this was at a module level only they have been done, not at a smaller functions. So complete login function, complete logout function. So they have been written in that particular pattern they have been done. So now wherever they required the login, they will call the login module. Wherever they wanted inbox module, they will call the inbox module. Wherever they got outbox module, they got it. So now what are the advantages of this one? So the first one is they have been segregated according to the modules and they have been tested this one. So this is what the first pointer. And the second pointer is they have the code reusability. Guys, just give me 1 second, please. Just 1 second. So so if you see here now, we have this particular code reusability. So now by this one, so we have been known that positive, negative test cases we have been written it, and then this can be dragged as a component based. Means now for the login functionality, I can call it, and all the inbox. See now in complete inbox functionality, I can write as a component and then I can call it, and all the outbox as a component. See now it was not splitted into small functions. So this was as a complete module they have been written it. Now here it was everything as a linear fashion, all the modules should be there, but they divided that particular component, the login component, inbox component, outbox component. They segregated that particular components, and wherever they wanted to execute, first to execute login component, second they execute the inbox component, and third they execute the outbox component. So this is how they have been divided into the component sections, and then they get it. So what is the advantage of this one is, so if you wanted to test that particular thing, so they can test that one. So now previously, once after login inbox, then they need to test. Now what they can do, they can call login and then they can call this outbox. They can log in, they can do the inbox testing. So this is how they have been segregated it, then tested. So now with this one, what it happened is they have been prominently handled the this particular way of execution, and then without having the failures, they tested it. And second thing is the reusability of the code happened over here. Means now as they have been written in the component, whenever they want this particular component, they are will be calling this. But still two things are not at, addressed. One is the hard coded of the test data, and then the time to maintenance of this particular framework was the same, because here also, even though you created as a component base, the test data is hard coded only, and even maintenance of this particular big modules, it became always a challenge. Now what it comes into the picture is next one, even now till it was there in the market because of this particular prominence things. So which is the data driven framework. The name itself, it was saying data driven framework. What you meant by the data driven framework means, if you are externalizing the test data and passing the test data from the external source to your scripts, then this is called test data. Once again, understand that. So now I have my test script, means I need to pass my username and password. So now if I passing my test data from the external sources, not from the script, means not hard coding from that. So external sources may be anything. So either it might be from the JSON or from the Excel or from the YAML or whatever the data sources you do have it. And from the external data sources, if you are trying to pass that particular data to the scripts, then this is called data-driven framework. So because even now in the market, this is very famous. So even now also we will be combining with the data-driven frameworks. So now the basic problem here is the hard coding of the data. So now hard coding of the data would be removed from this particular data-driven frameworks. So now what they have been started to doing it, okay, boss, now I don't want to give my hard-coded data at the script level. So I can pass this particular test scripts or test data from the different sources. So that's how they have been started to send this particular data from the different sources. So that's how that particular data will reach to the scripts, and then it will start doing the execution process. So now what is a disadvantage for this one is, this is only the concept in the isolated way, it can't be executed. It should be dependent with any other framework. Now what they have been done is they have been mixed up with this particular modular framework with this particular data driven. See, now what is the disadvantage of modular driven framework? So there is hard coded data. Now with the hard coded data, now this has been addressed with the data driven, so that I can pass this particular username password from the Excel sheet or YAML sheet, so that it takes that particular data and then it can be passed over, and then I can test it with that particular sheet. So this is how the data driven with the modular driven framework has been integrated. And the name itself, you can understand, hybrid. If the combination of one or more frameworks, then it is called an hybrid frameworks. So from here it started to give, because the modular framework was not self-dependent. So sorry, data-driven is not a self-dependent. So now it need to depend upon other modules. So then they started to migrate with the modular-driven framework and the data-driven framework. So now the advantage of this one is, so now we can test that particular modules, and then we have the reusability of the code at a bigger module chunk. And the next one, the hard coding of the data also, it has been reduced. So that's where we got this particular hybrid framework into the market. And the next important, the most important thing is the keyword driven. Still, the people are not very happy. See, because what it happened is, but still I'm taking a bigger modules. Now at a module level, I need to write the code. And then the reusability at a mod code level means the functionality level. What do you mean by functionality level means? For an example, I have Amazon login and I have Flipkart login. So now Amazon login is different. Means actually there I need to I need to take the username, password, and then take that particular thing. And then Flipkart login is a username, password. I need to log in with that. But if you see what is the common in the both the things, if you see, for an example, username, password, login button, both the pages in both the Amazon and Flipkart, both are there. In reality, it was different. It was having the OTPs or the phone numbers are different. But if you see, if I take it two login pages with a username, password, and this particular login button, what is the common thing between the both?
Authentication.
No. You need to understand the internal. It is a very basic concept. What would be the common with both the login pages?
But buttons and input method.
That's
like
it.
box.
Excellent. Excellent. See, now what you need to understand is, if you have been written these particular things at an object level, then that would be more generic and more useful for us. Means, for an example, you take any web page, any web application. So the three tiers. So hope you can remember. So one tier applications, two tier applications, three tier applications, four tier applications. So now three tier applications is called the web applications. And when you have this particular web applications, so how these web applications, what are the basic components of this particular web applications do you have? So just it will be having with the basic components, UI components, web elements. What are the web elements? What are the web elements?
Text
Objects.
box and checkboxes.
That's it. That's it, guys. Those are the GUI objects, and these things are called as the objects, right? So now here the objects are the buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, and all these things. Now when we have this particular buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, and all these things, any application will have the same. Even Amazon is having the checkboxes, text boxes, and this all, and here also I'm having the same thing. Now, these guys said, okay, if I write the code for one particular project, this can be executed for any other project. So then that would give us a lot of reusability. For an example, now I'll take a text box here. So for the text box, what are the test cases we can write? For a text box, what are the test cases we can write?
Send keys.
Send keys. Huh?
Click.
I'm asking test cases, not
enable.
what are the
Oh.
method.
Enable.
Is enabled.
Disable or enable. Yeah.
Okay. Next.
It is having placeholder values or not.
Placeholder values. Excellent. Next.
It is a like free text box or it is a like that multiple characters.
Text box will be free text only, right?
No, not like that. I mean, it is like some of them having 200 characters, 300 characters, like that, right?
That is
so like
called boundary value analysis. So what are the test cases we'll be having in the boundary value analysis? Abhishek?
Maximum character. Yes,
oh, sorry. Abhishek, what are the boundary value analysis?
Boundary value analysis have 3 test cases. It will check.
I'll kill you, Abhishek. I'll kill you. Is it having three test cases for this? We will have 7 test cases. You shouldn't forget the basics, guys.
Yeah.
Min plus 1, min minus 1, max plus 1, max minus 1, intermediate value. For an example, there is a text box. For this text box, we have given the range of 8 to 12. So now this is minimum and this is maximum. So 8 plus 1, 9. And then 8 minus 1, 7. With 3 values, we need to test it. So 12 plus 1, 13, 12, and then 11, we need to test it. And intermediate value, 10, we need to test it. So here you might see that I have been tested from 7 to 13, but you imagine that there are 6 to 40 characters. At that time, so the boundary value analysis will help us a lot. So this is what the test case techniques. What are the test case techniques we have? When we're designing the test cases in our TCLC, you'll get these test case designs. What is the test case designs we have apart from the BBA?
Equal partitioning.
ECP. Next.
Boundary value analysis, equal partition, and
Error guessing.
One more we have.
Error guessing.
Error guessing.
So these are the guys. These are very basics. You need to this. If you forgot this one, we can't write the test cases. So this is our bread and butter. So you need to remember the test cases are the most important things which we need to know. So that's the reason test case lifecycle is a very important thing. So do refer our documentation in the report. We do have test case TCLC. So because without the test, if you don't write the proper test cases, you will not convert the proper automation test cases. So always you should have the proper test cases which you have to be written. So for writing the test cases, they have 3 techniques. One is BBA, ECP, and error guessing. So these are the 3 techniques to write the test cases. Okay, now coming back here. So now I do have what I have been written. So I need to send the text, and is enable placeholders, BBA 7 test cases. Next, what else? On tips you should have, these are the guidelines for the test cases. Now if you have a text box, what are the test cases you need to write? What if it is a checkbox, which is a radio button, if it is a link, what are the guidelines we need to write? Means what are the test cases we need to write? So this you should have on your fingertips. So overall we can write 16 test cases for the text boxes. What are the test cases? Means it covers like is enabled, is placeholders, right? Now what is the other things we need to write is we need to take the special characters. And then we need to take the alphanumerical characters. And then you will be doing with the null value verifications, means the error messages you need without entering anything, how this would be enabled, disabled. So these are the 16 cases which we will be writing for this one. If it is an email, so then if you are validating for an email text box, then we will be having all the regular expressions validations at the rate, .com is there, or these things are there. So there are 7 test cases for this one, and for DBA we have 7 test cases for this one. So like why I'm saying this one is, now what they have been done is, if it is a text box, I know that there are 16 validations. Now all these 16 validations I have been automated. I have been created a generic methods for this. What I'll do, send text, I written a method, and then is enabled, I'll write a method, and is disabled. And what is a boundary value analysis? So just I need to pass 8, 16. Remaining validations inside the method, we will validate all these 7 methods, and then we will call it for special characters. By default, it will enter all the special characters and check whether this will accept the special characters. And all numerics, we will pass it and then we will check it. Is numeric, we will pass it and check it. And null value verification. So here I need to pass the error message. So that by default, I have been generated these particular methods. Now you tell me, if at all there is a text box, either in Amazon, either in the Flipkart, these methods are applicable or not, these test cases are applicable or not. See, when you write the particular test cases, so the test cases will have few things. One is, you need to validate the positive flows, you need to validate the negative flows, you need to do the field verifications, right? Field value verifications. Most of the bugs will be getting it from the field value verifications. And then the edge cases. See, as a tester, these are the 3 things which you need to concentrate more. Positive cases, even the developer will also test it. For that, we don't require anyone. The most concentration to identify the more number of bugs, you need to do it with the negative scenarios. You need to write the field value verification. Means all the fields will be there. Means actually in this one also you will be validating with the text verification and all the things. I mean, for example, it is a button. On the button, what is a button name is enabled or not. So these verifications are there. So the set of test cases will be writing it for a field verification. So the particular field verifications test cases we can be written, and this would be generic for any text box. You tell me where this particular means. These are the basic validations we wanted to do, right? Is it not in Amazon? If I have a text box, can I call this particular field verifications and test it or not? So now I'll be means I have written everything, all 16 methods into one wrapper method. And if I call this text box validations, then if I call this one, this will call internally 16 methods. Now, is it not? Just I'll pass the locator of for which one I need to test this. So now, is it not the way I can test all these particular field verifications for this? And how easy it is? See, that's how we need to do it. So now what it happened is, the genericness is at the object level, not at the functionality level. The modular level, the modular framework, what it happened is divided into the module, and completely at the module level, we will be having it. Now that code will not use for any project. But if you have designed your framework in such a way that in a small keywords, so then this particular thing would be much more easier. And then the same framework, I can use it for multiple projects. It's not for one project, right? I can use it for Amazon, I can use it for the Flipkart, or anything, I can use this one. So that's the beauty of keyword driven framework. So the reusability, the name, it has been given a more importance in terms of the keyword driven framework. So what we will be doing is, we will be writing the keywords, the short keywords. What will we do? We'll write click. And for click method, I'll be passing the locator. Send a text, I'll be passing the locator plus value. Means onto this locator, pass this particular value. And then like this, I'll be having all my methods written over here. According to this particular methods, this particular text and these things will be used and then validated. So this is how the keyword driven framework has been designed. And before like 12 years, so 12 to 13 years. So at that time, the keyword driven framework. So now the advantages, the keyword driven framework, what it will try to do is, for an example, I wanted to write it for a login function. Okay, so for the login function, what they will say, see, for this login method, click on, okay, so first one, sorry, send text, right? Send text, okay, and here username, and the value is Chris, and send text, password, Chris 123 and click login button. That's it. Now this particular module was created. So now if you see here, all these are the keywords. Now all these keywords are passed from the Excel sheets. Now they will not write it in the methods. What they will do is in the Excel sheet, they will be having this method, click and then send keys. And for this one, what the locator value here, they will call this one as method and this one as locators, this one as values. Method is send click, sorry, send test, and locator name here, username, and the value is Chris. Once again, send text, and then the value is this, and then locator is password, and the value is Chris123. Click, the locator is login button. That's it. So value is not required for the click, right? So just need to go and click on the button. So that locator value will be given here. See now how easy it is in the Excel sheet to maintain. So that's how this came, and then it was a market topper at that point of time. So combination of keyword-driven framework plus data-driven framework, it became a more reusable. In terms of reusability, it became more, and then a whole test case means, for an example, I need to write for a particular test case. What I need to do means, for example, for the inbox, I'll be writing it as login functionality, and then here I'll go to the home. In the login functionality, I'll be first what I'll do, send text, username, send text, password, click login button, home page, means this particular object is enabled. So we will write that particular method locator like that. So this particular is displayed. So the locator name, and then click on the logout button. So this is how they created the test cases. So now wherever they need to pass the username, right? So that username, what they will do, they will pass that one from the external sources, or in the same Excel sheet, if they wanted to maintain, also they can do that one. So this is what the keyword driven frameworks. So before 12 years, this is very famous one. So at that time, the keyword driven with the data driven combination was worked very excellent. And later on, what they have done is, QTP and other tools, right? So they have been done with another type of framework, which is popular, very popular at that point of time, BPA, business process automation. Okay. The business process automation, how this was handled is, so this includes three things: keyword driven, modular, and then data driven. And all these things, they will be called, they change the name for this one as functional decomposition framework. So business process unit and the functional decomposition, so both are almost same. There is some hairline differences, but if I say that one, it will confuse you a lot. But what is meant by functional decomposition or the business process automation is, they will make components. They will have the business components, and they will be having the common code library. So they only introduce these particular terminologies: common code library and the components. What do you meant by this particular components and the common code libraries? See, for example, I wanted to create a wall. So now what I'll do, I create one brick, another brick, another brick, another brick. So now I create another brick. So this is how it has been created, this particular wall. What they have done is, they have splitted the complete applications into the small components, smaller components. And wherever I require this component, they'll call this component, and then they will be using it. So that's how they will be creating the test cases. Now, what the advantage of this one is, the lines of code for a particular test case, if you see, the lines of code will be probably 10 to 20 is a maximum lines of code. But previously, if you see, for a particular test case, there would be 100 lines, 200 lines, 300 lines. Reusability is also very less. But now what it happened is, everything we will make as a component. Means for an example, now what we will try to do is, first we will create a component for this. Now for an example, login functionality. What I did. So here I'll bring the keywords into this. Into this particular keywords, what I'll try to do, send text, username, value, send text, password, value, login button. I created this one. Okay, I created this method. if you see here, I'm creating the business components, and even in the business components, I was using the keywords. So that's the reason when we have written this one. So functional decomposition with keyword driven and the data driven, we'll be writing like that. What do you mean by the functional decomposition? First of all, you understand the terminology. Decomposing a function. So it means what it was trying to do, divide a function into a smaller chunks and arrange in a certain hierarchy. Then that is called functional decomposition framework. So create small components and call that particular components wherever it required in a certain hierarchy. Means on you shouldn't miss the flow. So that is called login functionality. Now I have written the login functionality. I have written the logout functionality. In the logout functionality, I have added the keyword like saying that click logout. Okay, and I have created my login functionality, logout functionality, and then I'll create inbox. And in the inbox functionality, I'll go and click on inbox, validate email. So validate email method, right? I'll write another validate email method. So now in the validate email method, what I'll try to do, I'll just check whether this particular email present is there or not. So now first what I need to do, I need to get all the rows, and in the rows with the help of a subject, I need to validate whether this particular thing is present or not. I written that particular code over here. So now this normal Java code, which we have been written to iterate and store into a list and then validate in if condition, for loop in a if we have been validated. So now what I'll try to do, validate that particular code, and then that's it. So first go click inbox and means what the mail you wanted to validate. So I'll passing it as a subject like training course. So this is what the subject. So I'll pass this to this method. So this method have another separate method. So now in this particular method, how to validate this particular method, I have been written. Now this can be called at anywhere. So I can call this one in inbox. I can call this one in the outbox or anywhere. So this is business function, business component. In the business components, we will be using the keyword components. And then if you see now, if I wanted to write a particular test case, what I'll try to do, all these things are, for example, in a particular class file called Gmail. For an example, Gmail is a class file. So now what I'll try to do in my test case, this is my test case 1. Okay, I'll write another functionality also, outbox, so that it will be much more easier. So in the outbox, I'll just click this and I'll see whether this validate email is present or sent. So just I'll check that. So I'll click on outbox first and validate whether the training mail is there in the outbox or not. So this is the functionality. I have written the method. Now if you see here, this is test case 1 and this is test case 2. Okay, and in this particular test case, first I'll do the login. Second, I'll call the inbox, and then I call the logout. That's it. 3 lines of code. Now what I'll try to do, I'll create an object for the Gmail and obj. With this obj.login, obj.inbox, obj.logout. That's it. 4 lines of code. Test case is done. Now, next function, this particular test case, what I wanted to validate is, I wanted to validate for the inbox. Now, this test case, I wanted to validate for the outbox. Now, what it will do, so I'll try to enter, I will try to enter the login. So, guys, just give me 1 second, please. Okay, so now here what I'll try to do, I'll write the login function here, and then I'll call the outbox functionality here, and then logout. If you see here, how much reusability of the code, and how just I was calling it as a component. So this is one component for me, this is one component for me, this is one component, this is one component. Now I have 4 components, so that wherever I wanted to use this particular login functionality and the, this particular code, inbox and then outbox, these particular codes, just I'll be creating that one. And you tell me how much reusability is here. So now we create common code library which it can be used. Means for an example, the common code library is at a always at this. Always remember when we talk common code library, this is at a object level. Always this would be in the object level. Means object level means the buttons, radio buttons, check boxes, text boxes, and all. So these all things will be at the object level. Now, when it comes to this particular things, it will be business functions at the component level. So into the component, we will be trying to call this one, and then means this particular common code library will be called into the business components. And so this particular object will be called into the components, and it was building a component. And all the components will coming and building a particular test case. See, this particular common code library will be called into the business functions, and the business function will be created, and then this particular business function will be creating a particular test case. So this is called functional decomposition. So now what it has been done, there is a functionality that to do inbox, there is a functionality to do the outbox. When we have to do the inbox and outbox functionalities, at that point of time, what I need to do? So first I need to split that particular functionality into the minor functionalities, or break down or decompose that particular functionalities into the minor components. And into the minor components, I need to call this common code library so that it would be much more easier to create for me a test case. Now, if you have less number of test cases, the less number of steps in the test cases, it is easy for your maintenance. For an example, imagine that you have written 10,000 test cases. Probably this is not a realistic number. 2,500 we have written this particular test cases. So more than 2,500, 4,000 also we have been written it. So now we do have 2,500 example. Now in all 2,500 test cases, login is mandatory and logout is mandatory. Now, if I wanted to make a change for the object or this some step in the login functionality, will I go for each test case here, or will I come here in the login functionality, and if I change here, will it reflect in 2,500 test cases? Guys, are you with me?
Yes, Chris.
Yes, Chris.
So now if I change this particular code, will I need to go for all 2,500 test cases and do the change? Or
No.
will I need to go for the login functionality, and if I change here, it will reflect in all 2,500 test cases?
Changing a
change the
method
login.
will.
That's the beauty of this. That is the beauty. So now if you change, means if you follow this particular functional decomposition and the keyword driven frameworks, what the advantage of this one is? If you come here and if you change over the functions one step here, it reflects in this one. So now what is the point here is, once you created your test suite, that means there is no need to go for a test case level and then do change unless there is a flow change. Once you call this one, so remaining all into this particular method. So now if at all anything I need to change, so now all these days we have been logging with a username and password, and now we have been logging with a username and that OTP. So then just we need to do the change in the login method. There is no need to go for each and every test case and do the changes. So this is what the beauty, and the reusability is more, and all the test data we are passing from the external sources, and the maintenance of the framework is very easy. So all the exception handlings and everything also, exception handlings will not handle from the test case level. So internal to this particular method, I'll handle my exception handles. At each method level, I'll be handling this. So just in test case, I'll call what are the steps I need to call. I created that particular components, and then I'll call the particular components wherever it required. So that's the beauty of this particular framework with the functional decomposition framework. Functional decomposition, or the component-based business process automation. And with this particular functional decomposition frameworks, we can add multiple things more. So now here we have, if you see in the functional decomposition, it have the all the advantages of modular driven, keyword driven, and data driven. So all the things were into this particular functional decomposition framework. And the combination means you can combine this one, so then it will be having with the hybrid framework. So this is what the different category of the frameworks which we have. We do have another one is form, and we do have another one is a BDD. So what I wanted you people to do is, already we have been recorded the sessions in the for the form object and then for the BDD. I expect you people to go through those videos and come back tomorrow, because you need to understand. By this itself, now you can understanding form is very easy now, because now the next generation for this particular functional decomposition and all these things will be form, and the next generation for the form will be the BDD. See, BDD is not really required for you for your framework implementation. Currently, we didn't do it with the BDD, but This is what the latest trend. Actually, we proposed for the BDD, but if you wanted to maintain the BDD, it takes some time to write the feature files and all these things. But that's the latest generation. So now the current generation is using the BDD framework and BDD tools. But as of now, we didn't use the BDD. We just stopped from the POM, page object model itself. We went and then we stopped it over here. So I'll give a pause here. So because continuously I was talking on this particular framework, now you can ask your doubts. Means whatever on this particular keyword driven, data driven, functional decomposition, modular driven, frame, linear, any clarifications you can require. So I'm very happy to assist you on this particular